Live still works. Wow.
I think we're live. Okay, we are live. Happy Friday, everybody. Long time no see.
And happy July 4th.
Yes. 250
250,
years,
baby. Yeah.
This is going to be amazing. It's going to be amazing.
I'm on Team America, folks.
Well, it's funny because there's this conspiracy theory going around that the Supreme Court wanted to push the birthright citizenship back all the way to as close as 4th of July as possible. So that's why it was like the last of the last of the last. So be like, yeah, hey, America. So
yeah, okay.
Or it could just be that it's a really, really controversial case, and they're just doing what the Supreme Court always does, which is push them to the end of the session.
But I'll say this: was it really controversial? Because every single person, and I mean every single constitutional lawyer, left, right, or indifferent, all said the same thing. It's going to be upheld. As a matter of fact, it was hard to find anyone who went against it. Now, there were people arguing that it should be the other way, but I don't think that's the ruling was a surprise at all. It was just simple.
Yeah, the only thing that surprised me was that wasn't even more lopsided than it was.
Now, for those of you who don't know why we're here, we are here because of this case, which I'm about to put on the screen right now. Share this instead. So here it goes. So recently we have a case where we have a video of an Army veteran being shot in a Walmart parking lot over a parking spot. And some are saying it's self-defense. Some are saying it's murder. So we're going to go into it. So before we get into the facts, let's just understand the jurisdiction we're in. We are in the jurisdiction of Florida, which is, by all intents and purposes, a stand your ground state. Now, I'm going to let the gun expert under me, which is Kurt, explain what that means in relation to this case.
Right. So some states are jurisdictions in which you're required to retreat. So if you're confronted with a deadly situation or a threat, you're required to take every possible effort to retreat before you can use deadly force. Florida is very much not that. They're perhaps the most extreme the other way around. It's like you don't have any duty to retreat. So in Florida, you can be anywhere that you have a right to be, and you can go anywhere you have a right to go, and regardless of whatever threat, right? Just because some guy's mad at you or yelling at you or even threatening you, you still have your rights. So you have a right to go where you want, be where you want, and stand your ground and not retreat. So that's Florida for sure, in spades.
So now you have a lot of people saying that the person could have stayed in the car like George Zimmerman, or could have done this, or could have done that.
Play the video and then just have that as a baseline.
Well, we're just explaining out the law. So because the reason why usually when you do legal analysis, you do it in what's called an IRAC form, issue rule application inclusion. So if we show the video, it kind of it lets people watch it, but then we'll give them the rules after. So right now we're just laying out what the rules are in Florida, so they can, while watching the video, process it in real time, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So that's why I'm asking Kurt, because Kurt's really good at the rules. So we'll go over the elements of self-defense now before we get into the facts of the video.
Yeah. Now that critically, however, doesn't modify the rules when it actually comes to the usage of self-defense. That just tells you that where you can be, right? So I don't have to retreat. So if I'm in a Walmart parking lot and there's a guy who's really mad and yelling at me, right, and I'm in my car, right, I can get out of my car because I have a lawful right to get out of my car, right? That's part of standard ground. That's kind of a little bit separate and apart from when I can actually pull the trigger. When you can actually pull the trigger, now you're going back to core self-defense, where you deal with issues like proportionality, reasonableness, imminence, and other factors that are relevant to self-defense analysis.
So let's start with the self-defense analysis. So we are all looking, when we're looking at this incident, we're going to look at the 5 core elements of self-defense. Now, obviously, every state has differences, which we'll talk about, like stand your ground. But here are what we're going to be looking for when we look through this particular analysis. First, reasonableness, the belief that the force necessary must be reasonable under the circumstance. Now, what I mean by reasonable, in the Carmelo Anthony case, a lot of people were saying, well, it was reasonable for Carmelo Anthony to be scared, but it's not based on whether he believes it's reasonable or not. It's whether an objective person,
person.
Yes, a reasonable person believes that amount of force is reasonable under that particular evaluation. So just because the person may be afraid, that doesn't count. It's whether if you put essentially a reasonable person in their position, would that make these circumstances reasonable? So the question is not whether the person was scared, but whether a reasonable person in that situation would see a threat. So that's what we're looking at when we talk about reasonableness. And
they don't necessarily have to be right. It just has to be reasonable. So
yes.
if I don't know, they saw something in their hand they believed to be a weapon, and it was reasonable for them to believe a weapon, and they acted in self-defense, but it wasn't a weapon, that would count because the reasonable person would believe it was a weapon, despite the fact it wasn't, took action based on that belief, and so that's reasonableness.
Exactly. That's what you're looking for. And also reasonableness caveats all the other elements too. So innocence, the person claiming self-defense, which in this case is the shooter, usually cannot be the initial aggressor. They can't start the fight. And essentially, if you start the fight, you can't claim self-defense, which I think is simple. Like we don't need to go into that. That just makes sense.
Easy enough.
Yeah, it's reasonable. Imminence. Now, imminence kind of goes, imminence is not, I can shoot you for a threat last week. You threatened to kill me last week and I can shoot you a week later, right? It has to be kind of happening in the moment. And again, imminence is dealt with reasonableness too. It has to be reasonably imminent. You can't say, can't let the person turn their back and walk away and then shoot them, right? It has to be imminent. A threat has to be happening now or about to happen. Now, again, also people must understand too. You don't have to be shot before you can shoot back. Right. You don't have to, the person doesn't have to pull the gun out and point it at you before you shoot back. As long as you can articulate that it's reasonable that you believe the threat was imminent, then you can respond to that threat appropriately, right?
Yeah.
Yep.
The next, proportionality. This is our Carmelo Anthony. What we were just talking about earlier, we were talking about Carmelo Anthony. With this proportionality, you can't, if somebody pushes you, you can't shoot them. If someone spits on you, you can't stab them. Proportionality is generally, you can't just go overboard. And this is where you can come into some imperfect self-defense arguments, but this simply is proportionality. You can only use proportional force to stop the threat.
You can only use deadly force in response to deadly force.
Correct. And then the last is avoidance and retreat. Now,
which you could just ignore.
Well, it all depends because in a stand your like Florida, you could just ignore it. In a stand your ground field like in Florida, if someone's coming at you and you could stand your ground and say, I'm not moving, and if they continue to advance upon you, it kind of gives you two bites at the apple. Number one, that shows that aggression, and number two, it allows you to use force to repel that attack. So you don't have to go anywhere. You can, as it says, stand your ground. We have some complication of its own anyway. So, Eric, do you have any issues? What do you think about how the law kind of stacks out? Do you think it's reasonable?
Sure. I think that the stand your ground, Nate and I were talking about this on the phone earlier. I feel like there's the duty to retreat question versus stand your ground question. And to me, the ideal would be stand your ground in terms of you have every right to stand your ground, but it would be advisable to retreat if you can, but not necessarily mandatory.
Exactly. So let's start with now let's go into what happened. So here is ABC's Good Morning America. We're going to listen to what they had to say about the situation. Minute 15-second clip. And then we have other videos too that we can watch that goes a little deeper into it and gives us a little bit more context. So here we go. Good Morning America. Start.
This morning, the ongoing investigation into a deadly confrontation in Florida, a parking space dispute turning deadly outside a Walmart. 62-year-old Bart DiGuglielmo shot and killed.
Female shot someone outside in the parking lot. Both out there were fighting over a parking spot.
Authorities say the altercation started about 5 minutes earlier, with the two drivers fighting over a parking spot. DiGuglielmo then parked his car, partially blocking the spot, and walked into the store. Witnesses say the woman then managed to slip into the spot anyway.
All right. So this is all little over a parking spot. They're fighting over a parking spot. He parks in a way to try to stop her from parking in the spot, and she parks her car there anyway. So that's what all this is about, right? Something very petty, I'm assuming.
The woman is then seen getting out of her car, phone in one hand, gun in the other, yelling at DiGuglielmo.
Yeah, we're not off to a good start. Pause. Yeah, we're not off to a good start for the woman because she gets out of the car and she already has a gun in her hand. That's a presentation of a deadly threat at that point. See, this is a problem for her self-defense claim. Like if she had the gun like just in her belt or something, that's might be one thing. But if she literally has it in her hand, that's presentation of a deadly threat. So she kind of needs the deadly threat in order for that to be justified, she kind of needs the justification when she gets out of the car.
Yeah, isn't it kind
because
of
otherwise
a little bit, Kurt? Is that what you're saying? Is it's an escalation in of itself to have a gun hanging in your hand at your side like that?
Yeah, it's a presentation of a deadly threat because you got to think about this from every person's point of view, right? So from the point of view of the guy, right? If he sees a person with a gun in their hand, that seems a lot like an imminent threat of death to me. For him, right? The reasonable person would view a woman with a gun in their hand, low, ready or not. It's like, oh, that's an imminent threat. There's the gun. It's right there. It's like that's an imminent threat. So
at this point, I agree. At this point, if we freeze time, but there will be more context as we go. Is that where you're going, Nate, or no?
No. I was going to say I agree in part and disagree in part, because in states like Florida and Texas, there's case after case that's showing having a weapon, for instance, even if it's holstered but not pointing the weapon at someone, is essentially there's a legal distinction between me pointing a weapon at you and me just having a weapon on me, because this is a constitutional carry state. So brandishing a weapon, which I think what you're saying, is one thing, but pointing a weapon, I think that's another thing. So I would say here, just by having a weapon, if we were in New York, I think you'd have a better argument. But we're in Florida. So I think the argument may just be, it's not as conclusive as I think it could be, but I think there's an argument made on both. Go ahead, Kurt.
I just think you're being a little bit unfair by framing it as having a weapon, right? This is like, again, if she had it holstered, if she had it in her belt, if she was, open carrying in some way, like she had a rifle on her back or something, that'd be one thing. But like, she just doesn't merely have it. It's in her hand, man. Now, it's true it isn't pointed at him, but like it can be real fast. So I don't think that's merely having. That's definitely brandishing. And I'm making it's like that
well,
seems like a deadly
brandishing,
threat
can we
to me.
define that? Because I genuinely want to know, what is brandishing? I always thought that brandishing implied a threat. Not necessarily pointing at somebody, but so hanging straight down, is that brandishing or holding? And this is a genuine question, because brandishing is a very specific term.
It's displaying with intent. It's displaying with intent. That's what it is. Displaying with intent, basically to intimidate. So the difference is, like, if I pull up a shirt and expose my gun, was I just simply pulling up my shirt because for some reason, because I was hot, or like, I was scratching an itch or something? Or did I pull up my shirt in order to display the gun for the purpose and intent of trying to intimidate you? Right. The first is not brandishing. The second is.
In your example, though, is that to intimidate or is that to warn?
What's the difference?
Intimidation means that I want to, threaten, or, almost kind of getting down the bully thing in my mind. I'm just going English, not legal terms. But if I try to say, hey, don't touch me, warn, I pull up my shirt, showing, it's like, hey, don't do it. Don't do it. It could be a problem. It doesn't feel like it's
here's what the law in Florida says.
Let's be precise.
Florida statute 790.10. Hold on.
Let's be precise.
Yes,
with the exact language.
Florida statute 779.0. I'm putting it up on the screen now.
I say it's displaying with intent. Let's see if I'm right.
Here. Improper exhibition of dangerous. This is a misdemeanor. Any person. Oh, sorry. I got to put it up on the screen so you guys can see it. Improper exhibition of a dangerous. This is a misdemeanor. If any person carrying a drink, sword, cane, firearm, electric weapon, or device, or other weapon shall, in the presence of one or more persons, exhibit the same in a rude, careless, angry, threatening, not necessary self-defense. The person so offending shall be guilty of a misdemeanor. So
That's what I said.
So
I don't
it
know that
seems
that's
like here,
brandishing then, because depending on the importance of rude, careless, angry, just it's close.
and it has
To
the
me,
self.
it's a borderline because it is down. It's very close. Like it could be pulled up anytime. I agree.
And-
I would
and
feel uncomfortable, but I also wouldn't advance toward her. So
Yeah,
Nate said earlier you have to go by the view of the guy, right? Well,
Yeah.
if the guy sees that and he doesn't feel enough of a threat that he decides to advance on her, is he not kind of countering the brandishing argument? I'm asking.
I mean, you possibly, but also like if you just let's take the hypothetical and kick it up a notch. She just has the gun literally pointed at him, okay, and he advances on her anyway. Well, from standard ground principle, he has a legal right to do that, right? He has a legal right to walk, assuming that he's innocent in the first place. We'll just make the hypotheticals, make the hypothetical. She is in fact in the wrong. She has the gun pointed at him, and he decides for whatever combination of reasons he wants to walk up to him. Is that a smart thing to do? Probably not. Can he do it lawfully? You bet your ass, because he has a lawful right to be there. And like the fact that she has the gun pointed at him doesn't. Yeah.
But again, to continue, because you're getting close to describing the scene here. Okay, he walks toward her. He has a legal right to walk toward her. But if she backs up now, at what point is she standing her ground and he's advancing on her ground? If she feels enough to the degree that she has to back up, now whose ground are we talking about? Because he's crossed this invisible plane here, if you will.
Yeah, so we get into issues potentially now of retreat too.
Well,
because we'll go ahead, Nate.
Well, let's do this, because let's not move too forward into the facts of the video. Let's stay let's stay at this place where we're at with brandishing, and I'll say this: I think to the point of brandishing in this particular situation, I will say this: this is a misdemeanor, maybe, and even if we call it brandishing, which I don't even get, the law itself says if it's not necessary for self-defense. And I think now you're talking about if this was self-defense, then this doesn't appeal to the brandishing, because it allows you to brandish a weapon if you feel like you're necessarily needed for self-defense. So Kurt's point that this may be a misdemeanor is correct, but now we have to look at the rest of the situation to see if there's a viable self-defense claim, because if it does, then this does not apply. Does that make sense?
Yeah, but it's an issue of timing too, as I said before, because the brandishing or not exists the moment that the weapon is displayed, right? It has to be for self-defense or not at that moment. So again, like when she got out of the car, if we conclude that she was displaying it in an angry or threatening manner, then the only thing that saves her is that she had the right to self-defense to do it.
Not at that, but it doesn't. But
I guess the
argument would be preparing for self-defense. In other words, I don't have to. If somebody's coming at me in an angry manner, and I pick out my gun and get out the car, that doesn't mean that now I'm not. In other words, I am not now exhibiting the weapon for no reason. I am exhibiting it in preparation to employ self-defense if necessary, because you don't have to.
Okay.
So that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking this statute only applies if I'm pulling in a point and doing that without any real reason. But again, I think if we go to the video and look at the rest of it, then we can determine whether this even applies or not. Because I'm thinking right now it applies just right now without looking at the rest of the facts.
I have a couple more questions though, because like I said, her holding it pointed down is like we're really close. I'm having trouble getting over the hump of the brandishing claim, and part of that is too, how is she supposed to carry it? I didn't see a holster or pockets on her. I saw a hand. Now, if all you have is your hands and you have to transport the weapon from A to B, I was in the military. We carried rifles all the time, pointed down, pointed down toward the ground. I can't tell if her finger's on the trigger. That would be a relevant factor too. But if you are carrying the gun at your side, again, it's close because he could interpret it as it or not. But to me, brandishing is like kind of going about like, who you talking to? What are you doing here? Holding, the gun up, not necessarily even pointing out, but just waving it about or something, and that's just where I'm having trouble. But walking and carrying a gun in your hand, pointed down, which is the safest point you could do it. Even in the air is not cool because the bullet could go up and it could come down on people. Pointing to the ground is the safest way to carry a weapon. Correct me if I'm wrong. You've both been at the range.
So from now, so let's get back to the video. So I just want to make sure the point of disagreement is whether this is brandishing because she has the gun in her hand pointed down. Eric says it's not brandishing because essentially she's carrying a gun even though she's pointing it down. And Kurt says there's an argument that she is brandishing because just by having the weapon, there seems to be it could be seen to the victim as a serious threat. So that seems to be the disagreement. I think the disagreement is in form, not substance. Kurt's saying if it's in a holster, you're pretty all right. You're saying the fact that it's pointed down and not pointed at the person is all right. So let's continue to look at the video and see what happens after this.
He's then seen walking toward her as she points the gun at him. She backs up several times, gun leveled. She retreats around a car. He follows.
Yep.
Now,
that's pretty interesting too.
Now, at this point, this where stand your ground actually kind of plays into it a little bit. Because for stand your ground, even if I am the initial aggressor, if I start retreating to exit the situation and the person continues to advance, then that knocks that argument of brandishing totally out the water because she is actively retreating in a stand your ground state. Would you agree with that?
Correct. So even assuming that she was the initial aggressor with the brandishing and he had the right to approach her initially, when she starts backing up, she's trying to withdraw from the confrontation. She's retreating. So at that point, when he re-engages the confrontation, now very reasonably he becomes the aggressor. So because she made attempts to retreat, who the aggressor is legally very much can flip. Yep.
That's what I meant about crossing the plane into territory. Like, she,
but I hadn't gotten that far in the video at the time yet.
No, I get it.
So now, let me go back because now there's another video. So this video, well, let me continue to play this.
An eyewitness says the woman.
Now it jumps to this part, but
which I hate. There's a lot of cuts in these videos, which is
that's
problematic.
Very not helpful.
So I'm going to now this Fox News clip where it shows exactly what happened after the car left. So here's the Fox News video. The car's left. And remember, we saw him approaching her. So here it is. So here's the Fox.
Okay, she's pointing the gun right at him. That's pretty threatening. I don't know how much more threatening it gets than that. She's backing up, but with the gun pointed at him.
Okay. And we don't hear what is being said. So now,
can we back up to her raising the gun?
Hold on,
I want to see what initiated the gun raise.
Still watching.
Let's
pointing. Can't see her.
But so he's still approaching her because now you can't see her on the other side, and she's going to come around because she's still pointing the gun at him. There she is.
Still has the gun's pointed at him. Still attempting to retreat.
Yeah,
he's still approaching.
This is not a his.
No, but now he's walking away.
That's the problem.
He's retreating. Now what happens?
So now
he's coming back up her, and that's where the shot happens.
And this is
where it happens.
What right after soon as the shot happens.
What a fucking legal nightmare is my conclusion.
Yeah.
What a fucking legal nightmare.
Hold on, let me go back to the GMA. So
repeatedly warned him she'll shoot if he keeps coming at her. Treats around a car. He follows. An eyewitness says the woman repeatedly warned him she'll shoot if he keeps coming at her. He appears to leave, but then quickly returns. And then she opens fire, shooting DiGuglielmo.
I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know.
Let's talk about it. So hold on.
I don't know.
We stopped Eric a whole bunch of times. Eric, you said you want us to rewind it to a certain point. What point was that?
I wanted to see when she raised the gun. Because one cut, it looks like she's backing up and raised the gun as she is backing up, which would be one thing. Another looked like she raised the gun, just depending on the angle, and it's difficult.
Here it is.
Seen walking toward her as
she raised the gun there.
Okay, he's
walking toward her, and she raises the gun.
Now here's the problems I have with the scenario.
Okay.
I don't think his intent was to harm her. And I know that it's up to her interpretation versus his, but notice his hands were almost always down. And they were kind of in discussion mode versus like going to, fight or attack or grapple. Now, I know that that's me reading into it after the fact, obviously, and it may not matter legally, but the whole thing seems to be a tragedy in a lot of ways here, because I feel like he really wasn't taking it seriously. I don't think he actually thought she was going to shoot him, and I don't know if he intended to hurt her or not, but I know that none of that may be relevant except for the fact that somebody's dead, and however you look at it, a life has been taken, and it's really, really a sad situation in my opinion. But
go ahead, Kurt.
It's very legally messy because you've got issues of retreat and re-engagement at multiple different potential time frames. So trying to like figure out who retreated and who was the aggressor, it's very legally messy. My initial gut opinion is that, although I think it's questionable, but my initial gut opinion is that this is not self-defense.
Okay.
Because she came out of the car in response to a dispute. We're not aware of anything prior to that point where there was any sort of deadly threat. So if something happened prior to that point, then maybe. But from what we understand, there was an argument over a parking space. Presumably some loud words were being said. She steps out of the car with a handgun in her hand, displayed. Mm-hmm. And now that's with more angry words, which seems like, to my mind, legally brandishing. Mm-hmm. Now, she does make some attempts to retreat, but there's multiple different stages of engagement. And I don't, my snap opinion is I think that this leans against self-defense.
Well, I would say, to me, I think this is pretty much I think it's as clear self-defense as you can possibly get in a stand your ground state for a couple of different reasons. One, brandishing of the gun, having the gun, I don't think is illegal. And as Eric has now convinced me, by pointing it down, you show you have a weapon, but that doesn't mean you're really threatening as a weapon. And if you're talking about a misdemeanor, okay. So we're talking about she has the gun and she now has a guy and you have a woman. So now let's say if this was, let's not say these people, but let's just say it's any woman. Now you have a man who's screaming and yelling at you. You have a weapon in your hand. Then he advances towards you. So only when after he advances toward her does she actually point the gun. Now we have to look at all the other circumstances with this. The witnesses at the scene were saying she's yelling, stay back. I don't blah, 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 stay back. Don't come close. What does she do? She retreats. She's backing up. She's going back around the car. She's still pointing the gun, right? Retreating until she gets to a point where she's now at her car again. And he's walked off and he turns around and comes back and she's still pointing and saying, don't come any closer. And he comes closer.
Okay, yeah. So I wasn't factoring in that verbal component.
So
that,
I'm thinking
with those verbal components, now I'm leaning the other way.
So I'm saying with when you look at the entire situation, especially with her saying, don't come any closer, blah, 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 I don't, all that type of stuff, then I don't see how you have, because at that point, even if I give you the initial aggressor, which I can even give up.
Sure.
The fact that she retreated, which is required in a stand your ground state, the fact that she was given verbal commands that she wanted to retreat, that just don't come closer to me, and the fact that he left, came back, and she's pointing a gun at him and tells him don't come any closer. She shoots at the last second.
The other issue that
she doesn't have to be jumped. I think there is no way that a jury is going to convict this woman, because now you have a woman and a man too in a parking lot fighting over a parking spot. I just don't think you can get a jury, or the law is going to say this woman wasn't acting in self-defense in a stand your ground state. If we're in New York, you may have a different issue. But I think in Florida, this is clearly stand your ground. Go ahead, Eric, because I cut you off.
I was going to also say that, the training I've had in the past or whatever is you don't leave the gun in the car to have to go get the gun if you're in a potentially bad situation. And that's why I was saying about if she had no holster or anything on her, she couldn't stand outside with the gun in a holster. So by handling the weapon in the safest manner possible when getting out of the car,
absolutely not.
I don't believe in you're gonna leave the weapon in the car. What was the initial incident that made her get out of the car? Was it that verbal
That's
altercation?
insane. That is insane.
How is that insane?
What you're saying is insane. So you're
okay,
saying
tell me what's insane. Break it down.
You're saying that a person who doesn't have a holster because they just can't be bothered to have one, if they want to have a handgun on them for their self-defense, just because they have the right to in Florida, which they do, they can just carry it in their hand, weapon down, and just like walk through like the grocery store and everything, and that's just like normal thing.
Are you in a grocery store, Kurt?
What are you talking about?
Yeah,
are you in a grocery store? No, you laid out a hypothetical. Is she in a grocery store? Is she walking around through?
What's the difference?
No, you're painting a picture that I didn't say.
Yeah. Because I
so
think
now back up and address what I said.
The difference, the difference is that I think you expanded it to grocery store, where I think Eric is saying in this particular context of being confronted by someone on the street.
I see something that's a potential threat.
Yeah, and
I
so
why should I hold it down? I'm in the safest manner possible. I don't have my holster on me. I don't even have my purse on me. I have the phone in one hand and a gun in another. I'm pointing the gun down. I'm hoping nothing ever comes out of this. I'm just trying to be, as fair as humanly possible. And then the person keeps coming up.
And she's recording this all at the same time. So on one hand, she's recording the incident, and the other hand, she does have the gun. So I do think this is. I don't think he's arguing you could just walk around with the gun in Walmart.
No, that's ridiculous.
I think his argument is that in this particular situation where she believes that this person who's yelling at her and screaming at her may do harm to her, she prepares herself by grabbing the weapon and turning on her cell phone. If she didn't turn on the cell phone, then I think the argument would be different. But the fact she's turning on her cell phone and grabbing the weapon at the same time, I think colors it a little differently. Would you?
And he even had a vehicle backed in to trap her or put her in a weird position when she was trying to park. So don't forget that context as well, because there's also there was an immediate aggression in his part.
You can't prepare in that way. That's the problem. I'll return to your hypothetical because I suppose I misunderstood what you were trying to say. But responding to what you were trying to say, you can't prepare in that sense, because the right of the self-defense issue has to exist or not at the time that you're displaying the firearm. Because if you go read the statute again, it says, like, there's that clause, except in self-defense, right? So the self-defense has to exist at the time, because it's like, not necessary in self-defense. So the self-defense needs to be necessary at the time. It's a question of fact that it's necessary at the time. So the question is, what is the impetus that made it necessary for her to carry it around in self-defense at the time?
Well, she had it with her in the car. The impetus is some crazy dude. This is her perspective. I don't know. He's probably the nicest, calmest guy in the world. And I already stated that I don't think he necessarily meant it to go that far. But now, standing in her point and every extreme, whatever, you have somebody, you're trying to get in a parking lot. He blocked off your space. He's coming at your car. He's doing this. You are feeling trapped. You're not going to be able to drive away because you're blocked.
Maybe there's other things on video that I haven't seen.
These are all.
I didn't see any of that on the video.
Okay. Do you have that video? They showed the angle of his vehicle.
The first thing that Nate showed me was her getting out of the car. I don't have any of that pre-existing stuff, because you're right, that would significantly inform.
Here,
so I need more information. Fair enough.
This is the newscast that everybody's reacting to. So I'll play it from this point so we can see, because again, it has all the threats and all that stuff, and when her saying, because on the last one it also had that too. So let's play it from here.
Questions about a deadly shooting outside of a Walmart.
A father of three losing his life.
Before we get there, though, let me do this. This is a great time to hit some super chats.
Wow.
Gifted 20 uncivil law members. You for the 20 memberships to uncivil law. 2 years. Great to see you doing better. Thank you so much. Here's another one. I love this debating. This is what we need. Remove the race out.
Yes.
And get to the facts. This is a completely messy, unnecessary situation where both sides lost. Appreciate y'all's opinions. Yes. And a lot of people in their feelings Stand your ground law is
Yeah.
clear.
The law's clear, but the facts are changing before my eyes. Because as I just said, he just said to me something. He's like, "Oh, I haven't seen that." Right. So some more facts might come into the picture. Let's see some more facts.
Let's do it.
Over a parking spot. And tonight, the woman accused of shooting him claims that she fired in self-defense. Local 10's Rochelle spoke exclusively to the victim's daughter. He's live now in North Lauderdale with what the video shows. Rush.
So you just mentioned this, and this is important. This woman is claiming self-defense. She'll have to argue that she had a fear, an imminent fear for her life. Well, tonight we have the video, and you'll see it for yourself. And what we also have tonight are the words of the victim's daughter. And you'll see how heartbroken she is. The backstory on this case, she was estranged from her dad for many years. Recently, they were trying to
All
rebuild
irrelevant,
their
by the way.
lives.
Please.
She lost.
I hate that part.
Just tell me the facts.
We're going to start this
Yeah.
with the video. The victim with the gray shirt, the woman with the gun. There is a standoff, and then the shooting. You can hear it.
I'm passing out.
Oh, so they had the sound for the gunshot, but no sound prior to that, which is very annoying.
Father, Bart, shot in the stomach in a Walmart parking lot, North Lauderdale.
I just don't think anybody deserves to lose their life over a parking spot.
Cops say an adult female and the victim were involved in a verbal altercation over a parking space in the Walmart parking lot prior to the shooting.
I don't like to deal with death and like to talk about it at all. That's why I was very hesitant to do this interview.
But you are doing it. Why do you want to speak about your dad?
I've heard
I'm a little bit faster.
According to investigators, the shooter, the adult female, remained on scene, cooperated with detectives, and she told them the shooting was in self-defense.
he loved his country.
Bart served in the military.
this is
there are no
annoying.
charges.
I just want the facts.
She was estranged from her dad for many
Here
years.
we go again.
But recently, they were working on repairing their like that interview case.
Go with the
So that's what most people are reacting to.
You mentioned something about like
Yes,
him
I
driving,
need to-
trying
there's
to block
another-
her in or something like that. I'm not
Is it
seeing
the
any of
Fox
that things.
video that says it? One of them
So
does.
here's
break
the other
it
one.
down.
Here's the other one that breaks it down too. The GMA one.
Investigation into a deadly confrontation in Florida. A parking space dispute turning deadly outside of Walmart. 62-year-old Bart DiGuglielmo shot and killed.
Yeah, let's start with the shooting. Yeah.
Not helpful.
Outside in the parking lot. Both out there were fighting over a parking spot.
Authorities say the altercation started about 5 minutes earlier.
So she's on the phone.
Okay,
She has the
now
gun.
they're,
But we just
they're
signal.
describing it.
The two drivers fighting over a parking spot. DiGuglielmo then parked his car, partially blocking the spot, and walked into the store. Witnesses say the woman then managed to slip into the spot anyway. The woman is then seen getting out of her car, phone in one hand, in the other, yelling at DiGuglielmo, who appears to be yelling back. He's then seen walking toward her as she points the gun at him. She backs up several times, gun leveled. Car
Yeah.
follows. An eyewitness says the woman repeatedly warned him she'll shoot if he keeps coming at her. He appears to leave, but then quickly returns. And then she opens fire, shooting DiGuglielmo. Police then take the woman into
Okay, so that's essentially the factual story.
Which is ugly. It's ugly.
How-
all
how does-
around.
how does it change?
Everybody's
How does it
wrong
change?
to a point.
I don't know if it really changes that predicate really changes anything, because the way that they said it is like he tried to block the space, she drove in. Oh, he tried to block the space, and then he went into the store. She drove around the block to get into the parking space, and then presumably when he came back out, that's where the confrontation began. So he didn't drive to block her in the way that they told it. He was already blocking the space before she drove in, and that's factually relevant. Because she can't like be like, oh, I saw him block me in, because the block existed beforehand.
Yeah, she wasn't blocked in. She got
Yeah.
into the space. Now, she obviously, I think she parked into the space to F him, like, oh, I can still get in the space anyway, right?
Fair enough. I mean, it's a valid space. She has the right to do that. I don't have a problem with that. The thing that's turning the facts for me at this point is the statements that Nate is saying. What she's saying, like, get back, don't approach me, and things like that. If she is trying to verbally like warn him away and de-escalate and trying to tell him back off, don't get near me, and all the rest of it, if that's factually true, that strongly leans towards self-defense, because it's not just words of antagonism. Now it's words trying to, like, you know, I'm afraid, I'm being approached, I don't know you, I don't want you near my space, you know, you're bigger than me, you know, and you're acting in a way that seems, crazy to me. And she tries to take efforts to back off, and then she shoots him. So she's giving those kinds of words. That goes a long way. So then I'm going to flip my opinion and say, hey, I'm allowed to change my opinion based on facts.
Yes,
There are more facts.
There are
I changed my
facts.
opinion. What do you
There are
want
more
from me?
facts.
Hey,
No,
you
you're
present
right,
more
you're
facts.
right.
I'm going to change my mind. And now I'm
Good.
leaning to self-defense. Okay, great. Moving on.
No, the reason why I'm laughing because this case is it's messy in terms of the facts. Because I think if we really just evaluate it just purely based on the law, I think you do have, and this is just being fair to both sides. I think when she initially gets out, she gets in a car, and this guy's still screaming and yelling, and she gets out the car with a phone and a gun. So I think that was a bad mistake, but she has the legal right to do it because you have to start thinking about this stuff. Do I have a legal right to get out my car with my gun in my hand and my cell phone in my hand? Yes. But now he then goes and approaches her. So he now closes the distance on her because he's not there. He's far away. So now he comes and essentially confronts the person with the gun and the phone. That now is a bad decision on his part, right? She's got a gun. Why am I approaching her? Then you have the whole, why now is he trying to close the distance? She's backing up. He's closing the distance. She's backing up. He's closing the distance. She's backing up. He's closing the distance. And when you layer that on top of the warnings, stop, get back, don't get closer, I'll shoot you, please, stop. I just don't know how. Even if you give him, he was the initial aggressor. The fact that she retreated, the fact that she gave verbal warnings, and the fact that even when he left the second time, he came back to the same warnings. Don't come any closer or I'll shoot. And he came closer and he was shot. So I think if you look at the whole situation in that context, I think Kurt you may be able to get her on the misdemeanor for brandishing the weapon, but I don't think you get on the murder or the or any manslaughter, because I think at that point she's done enough when she's checked all the boxes for self-defense. Let me get Eric in here.
I think it's two assholes. Somebody died. I mean, really, the whole, again, it's a tragedy. I mean, you're talking about a damn parking space, and people got angry, and like just said, lives destroyed over a parking lot or a parking space. It's ridiculous. It was heated, but ultimately, in the end, I think it falls to self-defense. I'm not going to say it. I think it's, was it awful but lawful?
Yes.
Somebody said earlier, it kind of feels that way to me. Like, in the end, you kind of have to say, it is self-defense. There were so many mistakes made along the way, including by her. The whole thing should have never gotten to that point. Unfortunately, it did, and you only can determine, I guess, based on the law, but I'm not the lawyer.
Well, there's a lot of people, like even in this question, it says fear of death or bodily harm, because it's going to be the state that has to prove that she wasn't acting in self-defense, which I think is an uphill battle. I don't think you're going to get 12 people. When did she feel there was a threat? Well, I'm assuming you can feel when you're pointing a gun at someone and they're still trying to close the distance, and when you're running around the car backwards with the gun pointed and they're still trying to close the distance. I think that's where you get it. And then why did she exit the car? Because she legally has a right to exit the car, just like George Zimmerman and Trayvon Martin.
Yeah.
Cops say stay in your car.
Why she exited the car is definitely not the question.
Yeah,
that's definitely among the many questions. That is not it. I don't think that seems odd.
Well, we can say that yes, that was a bad move to exit the car.
Yes,
but I don't think it's legally relevant because she could have went back into the store. She has a legal right to exit.
Thank you, Amanda.
Right. So, she could have just went to a different parking spot.
All this is yes, but is that the case? It's like, should he have tried to block it, or she couldn't park? Should she have parked anyway? Should she? It kind of all goes down to the last minute when she said, "Stop, back off, stop, back off, stop, back off." I think what Kurt was saying, and then the shooting happened. Everything prior to that point kind of is irrelevant, right? Even if she was the aggressor saying, "I will kill you, MFer, I hate you, blah, 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 blah," got out of the car raging. If she changed and said, "Stop, stop, stop, don't do it, don't do it, don't do it," and kept saying, "Stop, stop, stop," didn't do it at any time, and was backing away, I think even in the law you brought up, Nate, on the self-defense, was that if you are, not the aggressor or whatever, or if the circumstances change, if you start to retreat or you change position, then now it's Now it's different.
It's not just brandishing, by the way. You're also looking at potentially like aggravated assault, because brandishing, with the display, but now you like are making active threats, depending on what was said, right? You might maybe looking at charges related to aggravated assault, but on the self-defense claim, I give her odds.
Yeah, I'm not betting against the self-defense. I'm betting with it. I'm thinking, I'm thinking 3-1 that she's because matter of fact, just so everybody also understands too, she was taken into custody, but she was released because in Florida, if you have a viable self-defense claim, they can't keep you. Question: would antagonizing him negate self-defense claim? Well, you're talking about innocence at this time. Did she essentially start the fight? Because he started to leave and then he came back. Well, if he started to leave
and then came back,
that's
re-engagement.
That's all on him. That's all on him.
Problem.
And that re-engagement on him gives her full self-defense, especially when she's pointing a gun at him.
You can't do that.
Don't come closer. And he goes closer. So.
You can't leave a confrontation and then re-engage the confrontation and still claim self-defense in a pure hypothetical.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't work. So if there's a threat and you decide to retreat, whether you have to or not, you decide to retreat, and then you come back into the confrontation. Yeah, you can't claim self-defense anymore.
So on Twitter, they're saying that she did not retreat. Do you believe?
It looked like retreat to me.
It looked a lot like retreat to me. She kept going backward. She kept going backwards. What do you think retreat is?
Well, I mean, she wasn't fleeing, but I mean, she was backing away in a reasonable manner. Like, put yourself in that position. Ignore everything else around. You perceive a threat and you're holding a gun. Well, do you turn away from the threat? Then it's not really a threat if you turn away from it and you walk off. So it makes perfect sense to hold a gun and back away from the threat while holding the gun to keep as a barrier from what you perceive as a threat. I mean, that seems like a retreat and reasonable action at that point in time. Is that a fair description?
I think so. I think that's extremely fair. If the phone shows that she was goading him, does that make a difference in self-defense? So if she says, come get me, come beat me up, come kill me, what you going to do? I think that would make a difference. But we have witnesses, and the witnesses are all saying one thing that's different than what we're hearing, right? They're saying, she was saying, get back. I'm going to shoot you if you come closer.
Question.
And again, also words are not enough to claim. So if I say I'm going to kick your behind, blah, 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 but I'm 20 feet away, like words are not enough generally to excuse you for self-defense. Go ahead.
I was going to say, quite, using that same logic, what about, again, time periods? Like, what if she said, I dare you, MFer, I dare you, I effing dare you, and then he starts to advance. She
Take
goes,
your swing.
No, back up. No,
Take your swing.
back up. Doesn't that change the scenario then?
Sure does. 100%.
Okay, that's why I wanted to ask, because the goading could occur and she could still retreat and still be in the right.
I'm not sure if you can goad someone and retreat at the same time. I'm not sure how that would work legally. I think the goading would win in that situation.
It's possible because, for instance, generally for self-defense or generally for that, words are not enough. So if I say I'm going to kick my butt and you can't pull out a gun and shoot me or do it, like words are generally not enough. So I'm not sure if words are enough to say, unless your words are of a threatening. So like I have a gun in my pocket and I'm going to shoot you. Then I go and do some type of further movement to the pocket. I don't know. I think words are a little bit more iffy. Actions usually dictate self-defense cases. But again, I could be wrong because
and also there are no witnesses stating that they heard her goading him.
That's true.
Which is the fact.
That's true.
But I do wish that they actually,
if she was recording
the audio, if she was
recording that cell phone video as evidence number one, I mean, because it will reveal the audio. And that's,
I agree.
Definitely what you want in your life.
But why haven't we seen the audio yet? That's what's pissing me off, because they showed, they heard the gunshot. They even said, and you could hear the gun, but they didn't have the audio, and they kept talking over the audio. And there's so much relevant material on that video with the audio that I feel we should be able to see.
I'm going to get to this real quick, but here is the witness. The witness. I found the witness statement. So they have the witness who is going to talk to us about it. Here is that witness. This guy is like me. He needs to go on a diet.
And paces around him. A deputy appears to show the woman telling him to walk away before firing a single shot. The man falls to the ground, bleeding near his stomach. The woman then sets the gun on the roof of the car and paces around him. A deputy arrives minutes later. The woman gestures to the weapon before he puts her hands behind her back.
There was police officers everywhere, and I did hear a woman screaming and crying.
The shooting happened midday on Tuesday.
What did he
Authorities have not
witness?
named the woman, who they say told
I heard
investigators she
her.
fired in self-defense. They identified the man
Let me
as
see.
62-year-old Bart
None of this is
DiGuglielmo.
helpful.
He was
No.
taken to
No.
the hospital with a single gunshot wound.
That's
they
not a
added,
witness.
where he later died.
I think that's the guy that shot that original video.
The sheriff's office
That
says
this secondary video. That's supposed to be the guy who shot that video. So and he
See,
said
you
he
heard the
saw the
sound.
woman's. Yeah. But then you did see her. I think that one part in the video where she does say back or walk away. So
Yeah, well, that one thing isn't going to really, trigger anything for me to use upon. I
Yeah.
need a lot more context about other things that were said and a lot more information.
well, it was recorded by her.
I'm sure.
And obviously by him. So I'm assuming the more video is going to come out. But I
Yeah.
think if the videos show the audio to be matching with what the witnesses are saying, she was saying this, she was saying that. I just don't think you can. I just don't think she's going to get anything. I think you just got a clear self-defense claim here. Super chats. The entire case is on a cell phone. Either way, they will
Probably.
either sink her or save her. Those recordings are the entire story.
And by the way, the cops very well might have seen the footage on the cell phone on the scene, and that could have factored in their releasing her.
Very well.
That's
True.
true.
I'm just saying, if they look down, they're like, "Oh yeah, this seems to check out." Obviously they would write the report and everything, but odds are pretty good if she had that. Now, Nate, you're the police officer here, or former police officer. Would you have asked to see the footage from her if she had it on her cell phone and taken a look at it on the scene?
Well, of course, you want all the footage at that point in time, and
Exactly.
then I'm assuming that footage is probably going to show, because don't forget she's holding the camera in one hand and the gun in the other while she's backing up, while she's doing all this. But I'm assuming she's recording it for prosperity, So it's there. That footage is there, and it's evidence now to a crime, to a possible crime. But if it is, I think at best, based on the evidence, they'd be able to get her on imperfect self-defense variant. Otherwise,
That aggravated
murder
assault still looks like a possibility to me. I don't know, man.
Will be out. Aggravated assault. I think you get aggravated assault when she's pointing because aggravated assault is you got to point
Yeah.
the gun in.
If it stopped in,
Yeah.
and he
So
walked away, and she advanced on him, then yeah, absolutely, right?
Yeah, and then pointing a gun and he's advancing on her, and she's backing up, saying, "I it's going to be hard for you to get a jury to convict her on the ag assault." Even though I think you can make an argument for it, I think that's as best they can get. Zimmerman was out of his car when the dispatcher told him to go back and not get out. He was returning when Martin attacked him. This is not the same at all. All right, but the thing is, he was in a car following somebody, and if he would have stayed in his car, he wouldn't have killed Trayvon Martin. Right? If that's the argument, right? The argument, if he stayed in his car, he wouldn't have tracked him down. So you're saying he got out of his car, followed the kid, and it was when he was trying to get back. So yeah, so I think it's the same in the sense of if both of these people stayed in their car, the people who they killed would be alive.
Sure. Or if she let him continue walking in the store, or didn't hang around to yell at him when he came out, a bunch of ifs and wins and all these other things. But it does kind of go down to the last possible seconds, in my opinion, before the gunshot. Everything prior to that is argument, I don't know, for Monday morning quarterbacking, but isn't the law determined on when she actually took the shot and her state of mind, his state of mind, and whatever happened at that time? Or am I wrong?
Well, the law, from my understanding, the law is about the entire. So there's a point in which the shot happens, but you have to look at the entire circumstances surrounding that. How we got to that particular point, because that informs us of whether she's being reasonable. Now, really, I think the question, the probably the most pertinent question here is when she pulled the trigger at that time. Yes. Would a reasonable person standing in her position feel like they had an imminent threat of death or serious bodily harm approaching them, based on everything that you've heard. The fact that she was moving back around the car, the fact that the person left, and the fact that she has a gun pointed at the person, and the person is closing the distance. Now, again, that's, and I think you could, if the fact that we don't agree, that we're not uniformly, can you get 12 people on a jury to believe that this woman was not reasonable in believing that
we don't have enough facts yet? That's the problem, though.
No, I'm just saying based on what we have. I'm not saying based. Obviously, there's more facts.
But even in the disagreement, correct me if I'm wrong, doesn't tie go to the accused? Innocent until proven guilty. So if we can't agree, and it's a tie, then it should be not guilty, right?
Yes. It's presumed not guilty, and the government has to.
So she starts at not guilty, and we're having trouble getting all the way to guilty. So that, to me, would preclude her being found that. But I don't.
Well, I'll ask Kurt. Do you believe right now? I believe you could make an argument based on a preponderance of the evidence, but can you make an argument based on beyond a reasonable doubt
for guilt?
Yes.
Not really. No, not for murder. Yeah. Maybe for something else leading up to it. Like when she initially got out of the car, initially displayed a firearm, initially was presenting as a threat, I might be able to get to aggravated assault for that. But for the actual shooting, no, I can't get to beyond a reasonable doubt at this time.
Yeah. So that's what we're talking about. So if the woman says you have, that's right, run like a bitch. So I'm saying, let's say that's true. Generally, words is not enough to justify.
Yeah, no, I don't think that's enough.
So would that negate self-defense because she re-engaged a leaving person? No, she could say, go ahead and run between your tail. The fact that he came back and is trying to close the distance on somebody who has a gun on him negates all that. So you can't just, you have to, unfortunately, words are not enough. Words are generally not enough. She didn't even shoot to kill him.
Oh, that's the worst argument there. That's the worst argument, because if you're saying that he's not enough of a threat to, she shot him in the torso. That's a shoot to kill. Yeah. But that argument, and Nate, you can confirm this. Like if cops, you hear the whole shoot him in the leg. It's like if you have the ability to shoot somebody in the leg, if you're calm enough, then they're not an imminent threat, and you don't have a justification to shoot.
It also doesn't matter legally. It also doesn't matter legally. If you shoot them in the leg and you hit an artery and they bleed out, I mean, murder is based on the intent to shoot the person. They died as a result.
And the outcome.
Did you pull the trigger, intending to pull the trigger, exercising deadly force? Okay, well, when you use deadly force, death sometimes results. Now, sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes you can shoot a guy in the chest and he doesn't die. Sometimes you shoot a guy in the hand and he does. Well, at that point, it's just your fate. So. She didn't intend to kill, but she intended to shoot. So at that point, it's like, yeah, go fuck yourself on that one.
Yeah, and the law is, and essentially what we're all saying is the law is it's death or serious physical injury, and getting shot
is also serious physical injury.
A serious physical injury. Full stop. So it's shooting to kill, it doesn't matter. If you switch the races, which we can do,
which we always try to do,
it's if people of the people and everybody who thinks she's guilty would be screaming, stand your ground. I believe in some instances that's true, but I believe this case, to me, this case is clear. But
I don't think it's clear.
I would say I think for others they think it could be money, and the reason why I'm saying it's clear is because I don't think there's a reasonable. I don't think the state is going to be able to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that she didn't act within self-defense. And that so based on that, I believe she's innocent until the state can. Now there may be some more evidence and facts that changes it, but the fact that she's backing away, the fact that she's giving these verbal commands, stop, don't come close to me, and the fact before she shot the guy, she says, don't come any. That all I think matters in that evaluation. It's going to be hard for a woman who's in a parking lot and a man who's trying to close distance when she has a gun to make that argument. I just think it's going to be incredibly hard. But thank you for the super chat. The statute says disengage and retreat to regain self-defense. Did she ever disengage
in Florida? In Florida, I don't know what the statute.
Well, disengage and retreat is the same thing.
Yeah. So disengage is I'm moving away, and the person continues it. So to disengage, right? If she backs up and moves away, and the person turns around and walks away, that's disengagement. Right? That's full disengagement. But if she's trying to walk away, saying "stay back," blah 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 blah, and he continues to go, then yes, she's legally disengaged and attempted to retreat, and he is now continuing on, and he does it twice, going around the car. And remember, he leaves again and walks away, and then comes back again. So in both situations, you have a disengagement, and she retreats, and eventually she stands her ground. And a lot of people are, I think, upset about the Florida stands her ground, but that's exactly what happened at the end.
I'm pro stand your ground. That's for sure. I'll tell you what. Like I saw one news report says this causes people to question the stand your ground law. Like, not me, it doesn't. I think stand your ground. I think stand your ground is a fantastic law. Yeah, but the question is about whether or not she was exercising lawful self-defense. I have no problem planting your feet and standing where you have the right to be, but it just doesn't mean you can shoot for the hell of it. Those aren't the same thing.
Of course.
So, like, yeah, whether or not she's, but I agree that on balance, based on the information we have, which we don't have enough, to be honest. We need more audio. We have one clip of her saying, stay back right before she shoots him. There's a lot of other words leading up to that that are very relevant, I assure you. But I will lean in favor of self-defense. I do not think it's clear, but I think it leans that way. And she did make it, because even if she was wrong in the initial aspect, which I think there's very strong aspects to suggest that she was, and maybe that's a crime unto itself, as I suggested. But even assuming that much, she made multiple attempts to back off and retreat. He re-engaged her, and at least at the end said, "Stay back." So far, lean self-defense.
If she
Jim tells you is following up saying, "My question was because are you disengaged while pointing a gun at him?" Yes, if you are retreating.
Yes. If you're retreating and saying, "Stay back, go away, don't follow me," yes, you are disengaged. But that goes to Kurt's point too. There's an element of the assault, of the aggravated assault. Pointing a gun at someone is aggravated assault. It's aggravated assault harm. Assault, you don't have to shoot them or hit them with a pistol with them. Pointing the gun at someone but obviously he wasn't in fear of the gun being pointed at him, and the fact that he kept closing the distance. The same thing with Kyle Rittenhouse. When the guy closed the distance to the point where Kyle had to shoot him, when you have a ranged weapon and somebody's closing the distance with a gun pointed at you, it's going to be hard to overcome self-defense. Here's another question. If she pulled into the parking lot space and sat there waiting for him to come out of the Walmart, would that affect the self-defense, saying she was laying away? It could, but you'd have to make that argument because
we don't know if he actually, they said he went into the store like he was going to the store. I have the impression that he was heading to the store and it was her yelling like, "What the, what are you doing?" And then he came back from the store. I don't know if he actually went in the store, did all of his shopping, had a cart, and came out. There's two completely different scenarios on the timeline. I would be creeped out if he came out with a cart full of groceries and everything. He's like, "Oh wow, this woman's still here? That's weird." But we don't have that information. I would love to have clarity whether he actually went all the way in the store, did his thing. She was sitting there for a while stewing because, that would kind of, make me go, what's going on? But if it was in a sequence of events, then less so. What do you guys say?
Yeah, the entire totality is going to matter a lot.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. It just makes sense. My question is, this is from Groku. My question is, if him approaching is the only aggressive action, is that enough to justify self-defense, or does the argument count? And will the audio change the verdict? I believe yes. Him approaching, if someone is saying, again, we can change this to a woman in a parking lot. A man is aggressive, is coming at her. He grabs her gun, points at him, and says, "Stay back." And he keeps coming. And then she moves back again. She actually goes around another car, right? Backing up, pointing, saying, "Stop, stay back. I'm going to shoot. Then the guy leaves and then comes back. And she points the gun at him again and says, "Stay back." And he keeps moving forward. That's the situation we have here. That's the situation the prosecution is going to overcome. Because you know what a lot of people are going to say? He didn't heed the warning. And she warned him not once, but a whole bunch of times.
There's something not right in his head, man. If you're approaching someone over and over again as they continue to retreat and move around cars and stuff, you're no longer just going somewhere you have a right to be. You're actively following this person. and they have a gun point at you the whole time, man, you ain't running the head. Here's a pro tip. If someone has a gun point at you, maybe like don't walk towards them. Maybe like go somewhere else.
Yeah, if he actually stopped, went to his vehicle, called the cops on her, it might be a whole different scenario, right? Like, I was there, we had a dispute on this, this BITCH or whatever comes out of the car with their gun. And he reported her to the cops. We'd probably be looking at a different scenario, I think, from what Kurt was saying.
Yeah, she pointed a gun at me. I went up to her, she pointed a gun at me, and I left and I called the cops, and it's all on video. Yeah, I think that's your aggravated assault. I think that's your aggravated assault. But that changes when I'm trying to close the distance on you. What the hell are you doing? What the hell are you doing? Why are you trying to close the distance? Now she's screaming. Now, so it changes the whole calculus. But
hey, can you pull up BV Luminous, Nate?
BV Luminous.
It's all caps. He's yelling. Okay, BV Luminous. You can retreat while facing her with the gun. We never said that he had to turn his back to her with the gun. We are saying that he could have left. He could have backed away. He could have put cars between him. Holy shit, that would be smart, right? Because there'd be a car between him and that point, the pointy part of the gun with the bullet. So your comment and screaming is not necessarily helpful. He absolutely, with the gun pulled, it would be advisable to back up and leave. He could be facing her. He could back away. He could go sideways. There's many options that he could do that would be de-escalating and retreating. And then, as I said before, if he had called the cops, very potentially, she might have been the one in actual trouble.
Yeah. I think I understand the frustration. I do understand the frustration because it kind of seems like, but again, I just think Florida stand your ground laws are pretty clear. This one I think is interesting. Nate, the distance approach isn't even something you're taking into account. I am taking into account. I'm saying when she says, stop, don't get any closer, and he steps, he doesn't have to be right up on her. He doesn't have to be at arm's distance. He has to be just making enough movement where he's trying to close distance and you shoot, right? Like that's like we can pretend like you can put an arbitrary number on it, 2 feet, 5 feet, but that's not how life works, right?
And I disagree. He was close enough to be imminent.
Yeah,
he absolutely was.
He
There's an old
leap.
saying about bringing a gun to a knife fight, how in a certain distance, the person with the knife is more dangerous. And number two, you can't let him get too close or you actually don't have the maneuverability to fire. You're more likely to miss. Nate, you've been trained on this, right? That you actually need a little bit of distance for the gun to be effective. If they're close enough, they're within too much of a range and you're very likely going to miss them and you're in deeper trouble. So correct me if I'm wrong and tell me about your training.
Oh no, for me personally, yes. They always tell you if you're in a gunfight and you're in close proximity, the smartest thing to do is go for the gun. Go toward the threat. If you're farther away, you run. Because knives, there's been a whole bunch of cases where knives in close proximity are a lot more dangerous than guns because of the way guns operate. So I'm assuming here when you're closing the distance, 10 feet, 5 feet, or you're in a position where somebody can lunge, leap, or run at you, then yeah, it's a different calculation. But I think this calculation ends when she said, "Stay back," and she was threatening, "I will shoot you if you come forward." And the guy didn't heed the warning. I just don't think you can. I don't think a prosecutor can overcome that reality. Here's another lawyer who does a quick let's
get another lawyer here, get another opinion.
So here's
Galeon.
A man made it 62 years on this planet and lost all of it over a parking spot at a Walmart. Not a home invasion, not a robbery, a parking spot in Florida where you should walk into that lot assuming everybody in it is carrying. Diabolical is the only word I've got for this. Let's get into it.
What started as a dispute over a parking spot ended with gunfire, a man dead, and a confrontation caught on camera.
I'll be honest with you up front. because this isn't one of those clean videos where I point out the footage and say justice was served and everybody claps. This is messy. And both people in it left fingerprints. Pretending otherwise would be doing you a disservice.
And investigators are now sorting.
So actually, he thinks like you do, Kurt. He's like, this is messy. This is messy. But I would agree, and I think Eric would even agree too. This is messy. This is messy. It's not as clean.
Messy.
Yeah, it's not as clean. But I think at the end of the day, the arguments for self-defense work here, and I think that's the clear piece to me.
Through the disturbing new evidence.
Yeah, ABC6's Steve Litz has a chilling video and explains why the shooter says that she acted in self-defense.
A witness captured the videos from
Florida. I keep snagging on because I get being mad. It's summertime. It's Florida. It's hot as hell. And somebody stealing your spot at Walmart can light you up inside. That is a human response. But anger is not the problem here. The problem is when you marry anger and stupidity. And this man walked a woman around a car while she had a gun trained on his chest. She's backing up. She's creating distance. She's telling you with all her whole body, she does not want you near her. And he keeps coming. And I have to ask the question I can't get a good answer to. What did you think was going to happen? You're chasing a person around a vehicle who's pointing a firearm at you in Florida over a parking space. That was a catastrophic misread of a moment that was screaming at this man to walk away.
A relative sent us this picture of.
What do you
Don't
think
care
about
all this
Kurt?
Yeah, pragmatically, I fully agree. Like putting the law aside, maybe don't do that for very healthy pragmatic reasons.
Hold on to the fact that she was screaming and crying, because that doesn't sound like somebody who woke up that morning hunting for a body. I'll come back to it because it matters for how this ends. Here's the one nobody wants to hear because it puts weight on the dead man, and both people can be wrong in the same 30 seconds. When a gun comes out and it's pointed at you, there are two separate questions on the table. There's the legal one, was she justified? And there's a smart one, which is the only one that keeps you breathing. And the smart answer every time, no exceptions, is, you know what? You're gonna pull a gun on me, you got it. Spot's yours. I'm walking back to my car and leaving. I don't care that I was there first. I don't care about the principle because a parking spot at Walmart is not worth finding out whether the safety's on. And now, the flip side.
I think that's so true. Why is that so controversial? If this is over a parking spot, somebody's got a gun trained to you over a parking spot. Okay, you got it. How many parking spots are at a Walmart? Is that parking spot really that valuable? Is it gold under it? Like, yeah, I got to see if she's really, because that's what this comes down to. I got to see if she's really got the balls to pull the trigger, right?
Apparently the answer was yes.
Yeah, it's like, what the hell is going on?
This is a road rage. Versus road rage is parking rage. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
We know what this is. It's just stupid.
Because I'm not handing her a medal either. If you pull a gun, you pull it because you've already decided you're justified in firing it.
Right.
You never draw it to scare somebody.
Correct.
And you never draw it to win an argument. Because the moment that firearm clears, you've already made a decision you can't take back. Part of me watches this and thinks she didn't fully want to shoot him, that she pulled it hoping he'd stop, and he didn't. There's a concept sitting at the center of this called disparity of force. And it's why her having a gun against an unarmed man isn't the automatic villain move the headline wants. Two men squared up, same size. That's the fight. But a man closing distance on a woman who's retreating, even with nothing in his hands, can do life-altering harm to her with his bare hands.
Kurt.
Yeah.
What do you think about that argument? Woman,
100%. Well, I mean, I will phrase it slightly differently to keep it a little bit more neutral. But yeah, when you're weighing the relative aspects of the proportionality, the people that are involved is relevant. So if you have like a really muscular, really strong guy versus a weak guy, that's relevant. If you have someone who's really elderly, an elderly gentleman versus a younger gentleman, that's relevant. So the relative strength and weaknesses and feasibilities of the parties is relevant when you're factoring in what's reasonable. So it is true that a person who has comparably significant biological disadvantage, whether that's due to age, strength, or handicap, or whatever else, is going to be able to use more because their fear is inherently more reasonable. And what poses a deadly threat to them is also higher than it would be for a normal person.
Now, Eric, when we were watching the video, because you're the body language guy here, what do you think? What do you think and watching her reactions to it and her moving back, what did it tell you? Did it seem like she was in fear, or does it seem like it was kind of just incontent?
I think there was some fear there. I don't know that it was fear to begin with. If that makes sense. And again, I'd have to, I don't want to answer too completely, because one, I would literally want to look at a frame by frame and look at every movement, every reaction before I would, make that judgment. But I think it's fair, because there is some of him that seems like it's like, what is wrong with you? What the hell? If I just go by that. So it's really hard to.
Yeah, he seems like nonchalantly like really? Are you pulling a gun on me? Like, what are you doing? Like, he's following her. Like, what are you doing? Why are you pulling a gun on me? This is ridiculous. We had a parking spot. Blah, 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 blah. Like, it seems like that's his mentality, where her mentality is like, yo, I don't know what you're about to do, but be careful, because, I have this thing. So,
and that's why I'm kind of like, I admit I'm mealy mouthed on it, but I'm not certain. It's ugly.
And the law knows this, which is very likely why the gun came out. They're arguing. It escalates. And allegedly, because I don't have the audio or the run-up, he starts pressing. And she reaches for the one thing that erases the size and strength gap between them. That's the equalizer. That's the whole point of it. The second this hits your timeline, you know the argument coming. A shouting match over a parking spot turns into a dead body because somebody had a gun. No gun, no funeral. Except the gun isn't what walked that man around the car. His own feet did. She was retreating. So take the firearm out of her hands entirely and run the tape again. Now you've got an aggressive man closing distance on a woman with nowhere to go and nothing to stop him. Tell me that version ends with everybody walking home.
Kurt, that was your thing. That's the thing that changed your mind. What do you think about his argument? Take the gun away. Have the same situation. Would you believe she was in fear or in any type of danger from this guy?
I mean, yeah, there is reason to have the fear. And again, if she's saying things like back up, get away, don't come near me, those sound like expressions of fear. So if the words seem to buttress that to the degree we have any, I share Collion's frustration at the lack of all the audio and the run up to it, because of course a lot of that is going to be very relevant, trying to determine the mental states of the relevant parties.
Well, I'm going to throw one more wrench into things.
Mm-hmm.
If you have a gun pointed at somebody and they still come, there's a little bit of this person's not quite right. He's not afraid of this gun. Oh shit. What am I facing now? I just want to point that out, because
you're not wrong.
Any reasonable human being would go, holy shit, you got, what the fuck's wrong? Oh, crazy bitch. No. I mean, to keep advancing, if I was holding a gun, then that would change my calculation a little bit too. Like, this person's not afraid of a gun.
Yeah.
Oh shit. I might have to shoot because they're still coming. And I know that that's bringing psychology or more into it, but I do think it's a factor. If they're not reacting reasonably.
You're thinking like a reasonable person. Well, I got a gun pointed at you. I'm backing up. Matter of fact, I'm going around somebody else's car, and the guy keeps coming. Right?
Yeah.
It does, I think, up the fear factor. Let's get some quick super chats. I think that another avenue is if the vet has a record of mental illness, peer to VA. I've seen cases myself, having worked in healthcare. Yes, but she would have to know that at the time.
And I didn't want to bring up the vet part.
Yeah,
like veteran and facing a gun has been in my mind the whole time that maybe he isn't. But I don't like bringing veteran status into it.
But she would have to know he was a vet. She would have to know, like, these are two people, I'm assuming, who don't know each other, and this just kind of happened randomly. So, so all that background information, it's good for the headlines, but I don't think it's good. It's good for the analysis. She let him close into close. She let him close into close. That distance is 21 feet. He could have charged and took the gun before she could pull the trigger. Yeah,
she's not trained. She's just a person.
Yeah. And again, I think the distance, from what we're seeing, I think if we look at that distance on the side, that's far enough where.
He could have gotten to her quickly.
Yeah, it's a car length apart. And this last one, why do I get the feeling the woman was talking and escalated the situation much like Carmelo? But again, that's not enough.
And mind reading.
talking and all that stuff. It's not enough. Saying you're an asshole, you're this, you're that. That's not enough. You know, it's even if she says, come back in, but he walks away and then comes back and she puts the gun and says, please stop, don't come closer, and you continue to come. You know, it's going to be hard to convince a jury that those words gave him justification to essentially to do what he did. So here is the rest of this.
In that world, the person willing to do harm just wins because he's bigger, and the smaller, retreating person eats it. The gun is the only reason she had a prayer. You don't get to blame the tool for the choices of the man who kept walking toward it. Now here's where I stop defending her, because this is the part that decides her whole life, and she may have torched it herself.
And she was saying something, but I couldn't, but it was incoherent to me what she was saying.
Deputies confirm the woman and DiGuglielmo exchanged words over a parking spot and then the shooting. She waited for police to arrive, then told them she shot in self-defense. Tonight, she's not in jail. Prosecutors will decide if she should face criminal charges or not.
The name of that woman has not been released, but that video seems to show her placing the gun on a car and then waiting for police.
She waits. She tells textbook. She stays. She puts the gun down on the car. She waits. She tells them it was self-defense. If the video ended there, I'd say she did everything right. Then she stands over him. I can't read her lips, and I won't pretend to, but the reporting says her body language reads like she's taunting a man dying on the ground. And I get the human wiring of it. Adrenaline dumping, projecting it all back on him, the look what you made me do of it. Yeah. But the law does not care about your adrenaline, and the prosecutor cares even less. Everything before that shot painted a woman avoiding, retreating, not wanting it. And then in 10 seconds, she hands a picture that whispers intent. That's the picture that turns a justified defender into a defendant.
In fairness, though, having intent after the fact isn't the same as in the fact. Again, we've got to be in that moment that she took the shot. If she mentally does the gymnastics to justify what she did, you know, saying, hey, you made me do it, and that's completely irrelevant. I disagree with him on that.
Yeah, I do too. Go ahead, Kurt, because it seems like you agree.
Well, I mean, what she says after the fact can be informative of her intent earlier, right? What I did 30 seconds ago, if I say some statements now, can be informative of what I was thinking then. So it can very well be read by, so the question is it due to adrenaline, due to everything, or is it reflecting her earlier mind state? So it could very well torch her.
I think I tend to agree with Eric, because after the shooting and me saying, I told you not to get blah, 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 whatever she's saying and taunting or whatever the dying man for as he claims it, I would say I believe that is irrelevant to the situation at hand, because again, I would just point to what actually happened, the facts on the ground that actually happened. Now, if you want to try to apply that the fact that she's saying all this stuff afterwards to imply her intent was to shoot him was to shoot him, because the only way you can apply that is to say she intended to shoot him. She intended to do this. And I just don't think that makes sense based on what we saw, because if that was the case, she could have shot him all those times when they were coming around the car and he's following her around the car. And before he left, the fact that he left and came back, and then she shoots him, all that after stuff, it may give them an argument to say, okay, maybe this wasn't as clean as it was, but I think it has absolutely nothing, for me personally, to the self-defense argument. I think the self-defense argument stops when he's on the floor bleeding out.
Unless she said something like,
I meant to shoot you or something like that.
I meant to do it. You were stupid, and the cops are never going to convict me. Ha ha. You know, like if she laid out a confession, like this was some diabolical plan. But in general, the adrenaline dump angle, I don't. You know, look what you made me do, kind of vibe. I don't know.
But I don't know. I disagree with him on this point, even though most of the other points I agree with.
And she may have won the fight in the parking lot and lost the one in the courtroom with her own mouth, standing over a man who was already down. That's why I keep telling you, the fight doesn't end when the shooting stops. And here's the thing that gets lost in all.
She was standing over a man that was already down, unarmed. Because she took the gun and put it on the car, she was not threatening him in any way. So it's not like the whole thing of shooting him again while he's down or something like that. And I feel like that's kind of where he's going with this. She wasn't doing that. She was making sounds and yelling at him, speaking to him, whatever she was doing. But she did disarm herself.
Yeah.
And she did place the gun on the car, and there was no further threat to the guy on the ground, in my opinion.
All of this. The part that actually matters more than the shot itself. Everybody watching this already knows they defend their life if it came down to it. That was never the question. The question is everything that leads up to that split second, because the real skill, the thing that keeps you out of this parking lot in the first place, is knowing how to read a situation and step back before it ever gets to a trigger. And almost nobody teaches you that. You get taught how to shoot. You don't get taught how to not have to. That's the part of my US.
So they're selling this thing. But
good for him. Yeah.
I think, let me see.
Who may well have been justified might talk her way into a cage because she couldn't let it go either. Both wrong in their own way. And I'm saying that to him as much as I am to her, because if there's one thing we've forgotten how to do as a country, it's how to just disengage, walk away. That includes me some days too. Situational awareness, a cool head, and the discipline to eat a little pride and walk to your car.
Agree with all that.
That's what keeps you off both the pavement and the docket. Y'all be smart out here. Be the calmest person.
So I agree with his analysis, and I think his analysis come down to this is self-defense. But and essentially the argument of there's an argument for the prosecutor in terms of after what happened afterwards. But I think if you answer the self-defense question, like when she shot him, it was self-defense, unless you can somehow endow intent to her previous actions. I think it's a no-go. So at the end of the day, it seems like we've heard. And the last one is the ultimate right winger who I always make fun of, Tatum. But here's his quick assessment. It's a minute. Here's his quick assessment from a non-legal angle.
Based on what I know and what we can see here, this looks like self-defense to me. Now, there are other contributing factors that could lead this to not being self-defense, meaning that if where he was walking was to his own vehicle and she shot him, that would preclude this from being self-defense. I don't know what conversations they had before this turned violent, which could also be a contributing factor of whether or not this is self-defense. But based on everything I have seen, this man, whatever argument that they got into, he chased her down. He approached her without ceasing while she had a gun in her hand, trying to avoid him. This is.
Oh, by the way, pause for a second.
You have a right.
He said something that stuck in my head when he said if he was walking to his car. Well, as a matter of fact, we know that was her car. And in effect, when she shot him, he was potentially preventing her from getting in the car, which does go into her favor as well a little bit. Just saying. So not only retreating, but also it's not like she could get into her car. He's right there. It was her car, her potential defense going away. So go and play. I thought that
I think that's astute, because even like some people are saying the distance between her and the person that she shot was big enough to allow that she. But I think if you make the point that could she get in the car safely, and I don't think from the distance she was standing, she could safely get in that car. I just don't. I don't think that was possible, because here it is. I'll put this up on the screen just so we can see it. But the distance between her and him
was less than a car length. About
the
two
front
doors,
seat, and the front, and he's standing by the front of the car.
Yeah.
So I just don't think that's possible.
To pull a gun out and threaten serious bodily injury to somebody that you think is going to attack you, and then once you point the gun at them and tell them to stop, and they chase you around a car and they keep chasing you, and your back is against the wall, you have nowhere else to go, there's no duty to retreat, and you shoot the guy one time to stop him from encroaching on you, that to me sounds like self-defense. Let's watch the video. Watch it again.
So he goes to the video.
On a cell phone. Here. As you can see, they seem to have gotten into a conflict at some place in this parking lot. But look at what he's doing and look at what she's doing. He's walking around the car and she's trying to walk away from him. You can't say that that's his car or her car, because neither one of them ended at the car that we're looking at right here.
And by the way, Nate, you mentioned that Tatum is not a lawyer. He's not, but he was a cop.
Yeah.
And that's a factor.
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, the case is messy, but for me, it's a clear people are going to think that she's committed murder, but this is not Carmelo Anthony. This is not any of those crazy cases. This is a case where I think a woman was justified in pulling the trigger once to stop a man from closing a distance with that. But let's go to the other lawyer here. Kurt, what do you think, Kurt? Based on what we have now, obviously opinions can change.
I guess step out.
Yeah, I'm still kind of where I was before. I mean, I think I'm leaning towards self-defense. I think she might have well been the initial aggregator, but she seemed to be trying to make steps to retreat at multiple different steps. If we assume she was making statements to retreat along with it, then I think it leans towards self-defense for the actual shooting. But she may very well be guilty of something earlier on in the interaction. That's still what I think at this time.
MLS, if either of you guys was a prosecutor, which I was, would you charge the case and see what the jury did? I don't think you could charge this case.
I'm not in a position to make that decision. I'm not trying to be cute, but if she recorded it, there's obviously cell phone video, which we haven't seen all of, and it looked like she was recording. So for me to begin to make that decision, I want that evidence. So I'm not really in a position to make a call.
Yeah, again, my call is just based on what I'm seeing in front of me. And I would say the reason why she's probably not charged now is because the evidence that they have is so iffy. Because remember, it's 50-50 loses. And prosecutors can't bring 50-50 to court. And even if you make a case that there's some argument for murder, this is the quintessential 50-50 case. And as a prosecutor, we don't bring 50-50 cases. You bring cases where you know you can win, or there's a better than not chance. Because again, you can't get all of us to agree. You can't get all of us to agree, and we're seeing the facts. But again, there could be some evidence here. But right now, if I'm the prosecutor, I'm not bringing the charges unless something on that video shows me something different. Unless there's got to be something that shows me I can prove to reasonable people who are not lawyers, just sitting there watching this, that she was not just a woman who's telling a man to stay away from her, who's running from him, who's going around the car, who's pointing a gun at him, and then eventually she tells him stay back, and he closes the distance even more. That's a hard sell. That's a hard sell. I don't think I can. I don't think I would be able. But there may be some that try, but I think that's a hard sell. Nate, cops have exceptions. Yes, I see them pull a gun law and ready many times well before the threat presents. What law exempts them from assault? Well, two things. Number one, pulling a gun and preparing, like for instance, you have to. This is where you get to the Graham v. Connor. You have to look at the training of the officers. So officers don't only have to pull guns if they perceive a threat. So if I get a call to a bank robbery, it's more likely, or a bank robbery where they have firearms. Well, before I get in that bank, I'm not going to go to the bank without a fire. I'm going to go to the bank and be armed and be ready to respond to the threat that's in front of me.
That's why swatting is so deadly, is because they're going into a hot situation. They're not like walking up saying, knock, 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 I got to serve you with something. It's literally they're walking a potentially dangerous situation. Of course they're gonna.
Yeah, and in most situations, like even in this situation, you would still have to show that the person, that the person we're talking about did something to make the cops feel fearful that they were in serious physical injury. So it's just not I can just pull a gun whenever I want. There's been a couple of cases that I've even covered where cops have pulled guns on people and have been charged with the assault, because that is assault. So you really have to, cops are not exempt from assault, but they have to articulate that their training experience showed them that this particular situation is one of the reasons why I would prepared myself to use force. And part of that was assault, because cops are legally authorized to commit assaults, but their reasoning and their use has to be reasonable and within department policy. I know I said a lot here, but people are like, what are you saying? So it seems like we've killed this story to death. I think it's interesting, but at the end of the day, I think we're all saying self-defense, and I don't think anybody. Let's do it that, since we're on three different channels. We're on Laid Back Law, Nate the Lawyer, and Uncivil Law. So we can see all the chats right here. So I can't do a poll. I was going to try to do a poll, but we're going to do a poll here. Hit 1 in the chat if you think this is murder. Hit 2 in the chat if you think this is self-defense. And we'll let it go. And I'm going to have the chat. I'm going to have Gemini look at it and tell me what people come up with, which is great. Gemini can do that. So 1 for murder, 2 for self-defense. And here is a super chat. Was it reasonable to perceive a deadly force threat? Yelling isn't a deadly force threat. No, it's not. And as you described, Florida stand your ground law, him advancing in a space he was legally allowed can't possibly be a deadly force threat. No, that is incorrect.
Yeah.
Deadly force. So yes, it can be a deadly force threat. Yes, because let's say, for instance, if I say let's say he had a knife and he says, I'm going to kill you. He's legally allowed to be there and he starts advancing at you. You can still show the advancing space. It's got to be in context. And the context here, and it's interesting because there's a famous case out of Georgia where the same thing happened where a cop shot somebody because of the same thing. So the guy, the cop, well, this is suicide by cop. This is classic suicide by cop. A cop has a gun trained on somebody because somebody makes some fertile movements. They say, put your hands down, put your hands up, and the person just runs at the cop. That the cop will shoot. So, yes, closing the deadly physical force threat doesn't have to be he has a gun, he has a knife. You have to look at the totality of the situation. She has a gun pointed at him. She's presenting a deadly physical force threat. She's backing up. He's continuing to close distance. And the Kyle Rittenhouse case, for instance, when Kyle Rittenhouse shot the first guy threw a plastic bag at Kyle Rittenhouse. But the deadly physical force threat in that particular case is when he closed the distance to the ability to where he could take the gun from Kyle. That's when Kyle shot him. So yes, so the distance in this particular matters, especially when she warns him, stay away or I'll shoot. And then eventually she says, stand back. And that's exactly what happened. So it's contextualized, but it's I think you can't just claim that it's because he wasn't armed that this is always going to be that it's always not self-defense, because that's the case here. The fact that he wasn't armed, it's a factor in it, but I don't think it's the factor that turns the case. Go ahead, Eric.
I just put up a poll to, the 1 and the 2 gets me confused because I can't remember which is what. So I just put
have
a poll
Gemini do it.
Is this self-defense? And on Layback Law, they're saying no, 61%. It's interesting.
I'm having Gemini read the 1s and 2s now. And Gemini is coming out. Let's see it. It's essentially a 60-40 split, Gemini saying, between the 2s and the 1s. 60% not guilty and 40% guilty. All right. 1's 40%. All right. So
on Nate the Lawyer, it's self-defense. On Layback Law, it is not self-defense. I don't know what Kurt has.
Well, this is from the chat. So these chats are all like 3 of our chats combined. So I'm thinking that's where it is. But so I'll also say this too. If it's 50-50, it's not it's self-defense, because remember, the government has to prove beyond a reasonable doubt it is.
The
tie goes to the runner. All right, guys. Well, with that, don't forget, like, share, subscribe to Laid Back Law, Uncivil Law, and Nate the Lawyer. Let's get some. What's everybody doing? I know, Eric, you have AUS today. Tell everybody what you guys are talking about.
Well, this may come up, but whatever's in the news, hopefully we can do some, good patriotic 4th of July stuff, and a little less stressful, maybe a little more fun. It would be okay. Everything's so contentious lately. It would be kind of nice to just have a fun Freeform Friday at 5:30 p.m. Eastern.
What you got going on for next, Kirk? Because I know you said you had a new video coming out.
I'm probably going to be working on a video relating to the Supreme Court's decision in the 4th Amendment with GPS data and them dealing with geofence warrants. Pretty big deal on 4th Amendment protection. So probably covering that and trying to find some ways to celebrate the 4th, probably by drinking something. Lol.
Yes. Well, hey, I'm going to cut this one up to maybe a 10-minute one spot so we can all see it. Happy birthday, America, 250 years. I love the fact that Europeans have now come across the pond
Yes,
and like,
that's
oh my
wonderful.
God, America's so great. They've been lying to us all these years.
And now, if we can only convince the Americans your country's pretty good.
Yeah, I know. I saw that. It was interesting. They said that 93% of Republicans are proud to be Americans, but only 30% of Democrats are proud to be Americans. It's like, what the hell?
And very proud is 22.
I just want the United States to announce a citizenship exchange program. I mean, they want more immigrants and they hate America. I see a very easy solution to this problem.
Yes.
The new exchange program. You give up your citizenship, we'll give it to someone else who wants it. Everyone's happy.
I like that. And especially we could even specify with a socialist state, right? You know,
Yeah.
because they love socialism. So
Yeah.
Eastern Bloc countries, you know, who have let's go from there, like Romania, Poland, and stuff. It's 1-for-1 exchange. I think it's a fabulous idea, Kurt.
This is
I'll
the
do it
policy.
in UK,
This is
too.
the policy I'd like the United States to adopt.
Well, with that being said, thank you guys for watching, and we're out of here.
See you.
Bye.